No one noticed the moment his life quietly split into a before and an after. Not the rushing travelers. Not the blinking airport lights. Not even the man himself. Because when a millionaire CEO reached down and lifted that suitcase from the baggage carousel, he believed, without question, that it was his. He was wrong. And inside that mistake was a truth he had spent years running from. Ethan Kross had mastered control. Control over boardrooms. Over billion-dollar mergers. Over markets that rose and fell at his command. He wore tailored suits like armor and spoke in calm, precise sentences that left no room for doubt. To the world, Ethan was success personified, a self-made millionaire CEO who had built a global logistics empire before the age of 45. But airports were the one place where even powerful men became anonymous. Here, Ethan was just another traveler standing alone at baggage claim, exhaustion weighing heavier than the leather briefcase in his hand. The past year had hollowed him out. His company was thriving, but his marriage had collapsed quietly, like a building condemned long before it finally fell. His teenage son barely spoke to him anymore, replying to texts with one-word answers, if at all. And the silence in Ethan's penthouse at night felt louder than any boardroom argument he had ever won. This trip was supposed to reset him. A business summit overseas. A chance to think. To breathe. As the conveyor belt rattled to life, Ethan scanned the passing luggage absent-mindedly. Black suitcases. Gray suitcases. Identical lives circling endlessly, waiting to be claimed. Then he saw it. A black hard-shell suitcase with a small silver scuff near the handle. Just like his. Without hesitation, Ethan reached down, lifted it, and walked away. He didn't check the tag. Neither of them did. Several miles away, in the same airport, a woman stood frozen at the edge of the carousel. Her name was Lily Harper. She watched bag after bag pass by, her heart sinking with each rotation. The suitcase she was waiting for never came. It wasn't expensive. It wasn't fancy. But it was everything she owned. Inside were the last things she had saved from a life she was desperately trying to rebuild. Documents, photographs, her daughter's medical records, a small envelope of cash she had been saving for months. Lily didn't know yet that her future had just walked away in the hands of a stranger. Ethan didn't realize the mistake until hours later. He was in his hotel room, tie loosened, staring at the suitcase on the bed. Something felt off. The lock scratched differently. The handle was worn in a way his wasn't. A flicker of irritation crossed his face. He unzipped it. The first thing he saw was a folded beige coat, clearly not his. His annoyance turned into confusion. Then curiosity. Inside the suitcase were neatly folded clothes, practical and modest. No designer labels. No luxury accessories. Just care. Everything arranged thoughtfully, as if someone had packed not for a trip, but for survival. Ethan paused. Then he noticed the envelope. Inside were medical documents, children's hospital reports, a diagnosis, a name repeated again and again, Emma Harper, age 7. Ethan felt something tighten in his chest. He sat down slowly on the edge of the bed, the room suddenly too quiet. At the bottom of the suitcase was a small, worn notebook. He opened it, and the words inside changed everything. The notebook wasn't meant for anyone else's eyes. It was a diary, raw, honest, written in uneven handwriting during late nights and moments of quiet desperation. Lily had written about losing her husband to an accident 2 years earlier. About medical bills that swallowed their savings whole. About working 2 jobs while trying to keep her daughter smiling through chemotherapy. She wrote about fear, about hope, about praying, not for miracles, but for strength to make it through one more day. Ethan read every word. And with each page, a wall he had spent decades building around himself began to crack. He remembered his own childhood, his mother working late shifts, counting coins at the kitchen table, pretending not to cry when bills piled up. He remembered promising himself that once he escaped that life, he would never feel powerless again. Somewhere along the way, success had hardened him. He had forgotten what it felt like to be human. Ethan closed the notebook, his hands trembling slightly. For the first time in years, money felt small. Meanwhile, Lily sat alone on a plastic chair in the airport lost and found office, clutching her phone like a lifeline. The attendant spoke gently, but Lily barely heard her. Without that suitcase, she didn't know how she would explain things to Emma. How she would reschedule treatments without documents. How she would afford even the next week. She didn't cry. She couldn't afford to. She simply stared at the floor, whispering, "Please, please let someone kind have it." That night, Ethan didn't attend the summit dinner. Instead, he made a phone call. Then another. By morning, he had cancelled his meetings. For the first time in his career, he chose something over business. He chose right. Using the information inside the suitcase, Ethan tracked Lily down. It wasn't easy, but persistence was something he had never lacked. When Lily answered the knock at the small apartment door, she wasn't prepared for the man standing there, polished, nervous, holding her suitcase like it was fragile glass. "I think," Ethan said quietly, "I took something that wasn't mine." For a moment, Lily couldn't speak. Then she saw the suitcase. And she broke. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just the kind of silent crying that comes from relief so deep it hurts. Ethan stood there awkwardly, guilt and humility washing over him in waves. "I read it," he admitted softly. "The notebook. I'm sorry. But I needed you to know, it mattered." Lily wiped her eyes. "Most people don't notice people like us," she said. "They just keep walking." Ethan nodded. "I did that for years." What happened next wasn't charity. It wasn't a dramatic check handed over for applause. It was something quieter. Ethan helped Lily organize her medical paperwork. He connected her with specialists, not through favors, but through effort. He funded a treatment program anonymously. He created a company initiative that provided support for families dealing with long-term illness, without attaching his name to it. And slowly, something else changed. Ethan started calling his son, not to lecture, but to listen. He started leaving the office earlier. He started noticing people. Months later, Ethan and Lily crossed paths again, this time at a small cafe near the hospital. Emma was laughing, healthy, alive. Lily smiled at Ethan and said, "You know, losing that suitcase was the scariest thing that ever happened to me." Ethan smiled back. "Finding it," he replied, "saved me." Sometimes, life doesn't change us through success. It changes us through mistakes. Through wrong luggage. Through moments we don't even realize are invitations to become better than who we were yesterday. And if you're listening to this right now, maybe you're carrying something that isn't yours. Or maybe you're waiting for something you think is lost forever. Either way, remember this. One small detail. One moment of kindness. One choice to care. That's all it takes to change everything.